大家好，我是 Jenny， 欢迎来到沉思者 J。 在20世纪的中国，有一个人的人生简直就像传奇小说。他14岁就想自杀，24岁当上北大教授，没有任何文凭，却被蔡元培请去教印度哲学。他一生都在追问中国人的出路在哪里。他的答案不是革命，也不是全盘西化，而是回到乡村，回到人心。今天要跟大家聊的就是这位被称为中国最后一位大儒的梁漱溟。1893年，梁漱溟出生在北京。他的父亲梁冀是清朝的举人，也是一位很有气节的读书人。家里虽然不算富裕，但是书香气息很浓。小时候的梁漱溟非常敏感，对人生充满困惑。他常常想，人为什么要活着？活着的意义是什么？这种深沉的思考让他在14岁那年竟然萌生了自杀的念头，幸好被家人及时发现。这段经历成为他一生思考的起点。年轻时的梁漱溟接触了很多西方思想，他读过尼采，读过叔本华，也读过康德，但这些理论都无法解答他内心的困惑。直到他接触了佛学，他突然找到了某种答案。佛教讲的无我，讲的解脱，让他觉得人生似乎有了方向。他开始深入研究佛经，甚至一度想要出家，但是他的父亲劝他，真正的修行不在寺庙，而在人间。这句话让梁漱溟改变了想法。1917年，北京大学校长蔡元培听说有个年轻人对印度哲学很有研究，就想请他来教书。当时的梁漱溟才24岁，连中学都没毕业，更别说什么大学文凭了。但蔡元培不在乎这些，他只看重真才实学。就这样，梁漱溟走进了北大，成为当时最年轻的教授之一。在北大教书的那几年，梁漱溟思考了一个大问题：中国的文化该何去何从？当时的中国知识界分成了好几派，有人主张全盘西化，觉得中国传统都是糟粕，必须彻底抛弃；有人主张保守传统，觉得西方的东西都是邪说，不能接受。梁漱溟觉得这两种看法都太极端，他写了一本书，叫做《东西文化及其哲学》。这本书一出版，立刻在学术界引起轰动。梁漱溟在书里说，世界上有3种文化路向，西方文化是向前要求的，追求征服自然，改造世界；中国文化是持中要求的，追求人与自然的和谐；印度文化是向后要求的，追求超脱现实，回归内心。他认为这3种文化各有各的价值，不能说哪一种一定比较好。西方文化在物质发展上很成功，但也带来了很多问题。人变得太功利，太焦虑，失去了内心的平静。中国文化强调中庸，强调人伦关系，这在现代社会仍然有价值。印度文化追求精神解脱，可以帮助人面对生死。梁漱溟说，未来的世界需要的不是某一种文化独大，而是3种文化的融合。这个观点在当时非常新颖，也让很多人重新思考中国传统文化的价值。但梁漱溟不只是个理论家，他更是个实践者。1924年，他做了一个惊人的决定，辞去北大教授的职位，跑到山东乡下去搞乡村建设。很多人都觉得他疯了，好好的大学教授不当，跑去乡下做什么？但梁漱溟有他的坚持，他认为中国的问题根本不在大城市，而在广大的农村。中国有80%的人口是农民，如果农村不改变，中国就不可能真正强大。他来到山东鄒平县，开始了他的乡村建设实验。他不是简单的办学校，或者教农民种地，而是要改造整个乡村社会。他建立了乡村自治组织，成立了农民合作社，开办了乡村学校，还推动文化教育。梁漱溟相信，乡村建设的核心不是技术，不是资金，而是人心的改变。他要让农民懂得自治，懂得合作，懂得理性，这样才能真正改变乡村。他在鄒平待了7年，这7年里，他吃住都在乡下，跟农民一起生活，一起工作。他穿着布衣，脚踏草鞋， 完全没有教授的架子。农民们都很尊敬他，叫他梁先生。梁漱溟的乡村建设运动在当时引起了很大反响，很多地方都来学习。但是1937年，日本全面侵华，邹平沦陷，梁漱溟的乡村建设实验被迫中断。抗战期间，梁漱溟做了另一件大事，他参与创建了中国民主政团同盟，也就是后来的民盟。他到处奔走，呼吁团结抗日，呼吁民主宪政。他见过蒋介石，也见过毛泽东。他不属于任何党派，只为国家和人民说话。有一次，梁漱溟跟毛泽东谈话，毛泽东问他：你为什么不加入共产党？梁漱溟回答得很妙，他说：我这个人太笨，只会独立思考，不适合加入政党。这句话体现了他一生的原则：独立思考，不随波逐流。1949年之后，梁漱溟留在了大陆。他本来可以去台湾，也可以去香港，但他选择留下来，因为他相信新中国能够实现他的理想。可是现实很快让他失望。1953年，在政协会议上，梁漱溟提出了一个尖锐的问题。他说，现在的政策重视工业，却忽视了农民，工人的生活在改善，农民却依然贫困，这是不对的。这番话惹怒了当时的领导，毛泽东在会上批评他，说他是反动文人。梁漱溟当场反驳，他说，我不是反动文人，我只是讲真话。这一反驳让他付出了惨重代价，从此他被打成右派，被批判，被斗争。在那个年代，很多知识分子选择沉默，或者违心检讨，但梁漱溟从不低头。有人问他，你后悔吗？他说，我不后悔，该说的话我说了，该做的事我做了。这就是梁漱溟的骨气，这就是儒家的风骨。文革大革命期間，梁漱溟受尽折磨，红卫兵抄了他的家，烧了他珍藏多年的书。批斗会上，他被逼着下跪，被人羞辱，但他始终保持尊严。有一次，红卫兵逼他承认错误，他昂起头说，三军可夺帅，匹夫不可夺志。这句话出自《论语》，是孔子的名言。在那个批判孔子的年代，他敢引用这句话，需要多大的勇气？1978年，改革开放开始，梁漱溟终于恢复了名誉。当时他已经85岁，但精神依然矍铄。他重新开始写作，继续思考中国文化的问题。他晚年写了一本书，叫做《人心与人生》。这本书总结了他一生的思考。他说，人生的意义不在于追求物质，而在于追求精神的充实；不在于征服自然，而在于认识自我；不在于改造世界，而在于改造人心。这些话跟他年轻时的困惑形成了完美的呼应。1988年，梁漱溟在北京去世，享年95岁。他的一生横跨了晚清、民国、新中国3个时代，他经历了无数风雨，但始终坚持自己的信念。梁漱溟的思想在今天依然有重要意义。他提出的文化融合论在全球化时代更显珍贵。他强调的乡村建设跟现在的乡村振兴不谋而合。他主张的人心改造在这个浮躁的社会更是一剂清凉剂。有人说，梁漱溟是理想主义者，他的很多想法不切实际，但正是因为有这样的理想主义者，社会才能保持前进的动力。他们就像灯塔，在黑暗中为人指明方向。梁漱溟一生都在追问，中国的出路在哪里？他给出的答案是，回到传统，回到乡村，回到人心。这个答案或许不完美，但却充满了智慧。在他看来，中国文化的根在于重视人伦，重视和谐，重视内在修养。这些东西不会因为时代变迁而过时，反而会越来越重要。西方文化带来了科技，带来了民主，带来了物质繁荣，这些都很好，但如果只有这些，人会变得空虚，社会会变得冷漠。所以需要东方智慧来平衡，需要儒家的仁爱，佛家的慈悲，道家的自然。梁漱溟说，真正的现代化不是把中国变成西方， 而是在保持中国文化特色的基础上，吸收西方的长处，创造出一种新的文明形态。这种文明既有理性，也有人情，既有效率，也有温度，既能发展经济，也能安顿人心。这个理想在当时看来很遥远，但今天正在慢慢实现。中国的崛起，不就是在证明中国可以有自己的现代化道路吗？可以不必完全照搬西方模式，而是走出一条具有中国特色的路。梁漱溟如果能看到今天，一定会感到欣慰。回顾梁漱溟的一生，最让人感动的是他的真诚。他从不说假话，从不作为心事，即使在最困难的时候，也不放弃原则。他有句名言：我愿终身为华夏民族社会尽力，并愿使自己成为社会所永久信赖的一个人。他做到了，他用一生践行了这个承诺。今天的我们，生活在一个更好的时代，有更多的自由，更多的机会，但我们是否还记得像梁漱溟这样的先辈，他们曾经为这个国家付出过什么？他们的思考，他们的坚持，他们的牺牲，都值得我们铭记。梁漱溟告诉我们，做人要有骨气，要有独立思考的能力，不能人云亦云，不能随波逐流，要敢于说真话，敢于坚持真理。即使全世界都反对你，只要你是对的，就要坚持下去。他还告诉我们，读书不能只读死书，要读出智慧，要读出人生的道理，要学以致用，要知行合一，理论和实践必须结合，否则就是空谈。最重要的是，他告诉我们，要关心这个社会，要关心普通人的生活，不能只顾自己，要有天下情怀，要有社会责任感。这就是一个知识分子应该有的样子。梁漱溟是中国最后一位大儒，也是20世纪最有风骨的读书人之一。他的一生就是一部活生生的历史，也是一本永远读不完的书。希望今天的分享能让大家对这位大师有更多的了解，也能从他的人生中得到一些启发。在这个快速变化的时代，我们更需要梁漱溟这样的精神，需要独立思考，需要文化自信，需要人文关怀，需要理想主义。或许这就是我们向大师致敬的意义，不只是缅怀过去，更是为了走好未来的路。我们下次见咯。Hello everyone, I'm Jenny. Welcome to Thinker J. In 20th century China, there was a man whose life read like a legendary novel. At 14, he contemplated suicide. At 24, he became a professor at Peking University. He had no formal degrees, yet Cai Yuanpei invited him to teach Indian philosophy. Throughout his life, he asked one question: where lies the path for China? His answer was not revolution, nor wholesale westernization. Instead, he turned to the countryside, to the human heart. Today, we talk about Liang Shuming, known as the last great Confucian scholar of China. In 1893, Liang Shuming was born in Beijing. His father, Liang Ji, was a Qing dynasty scholar who passed the imperial examinations. He was a man of principle and integrity. Though the family was not wealthy, books filled their home. Young Liang Shuming was extremely sensitive. He was filled with profound questions about life. He often wondered why people should live at all. What was the meaning of existence? These deep reflections led him, at age 14, to consider ending his life. Fortunately, his family discovered this in time. This experience became the starting point for his lifelong contemplation. As a young man, Liang Shuming encountered many Western philosophies. He read Nietzsche, Schopenhauer, and Kant. But these theories could not answer his inner confusion. Then he discovered Buddhism. Suddenly, he found something resembling an answer. Buddhism spoke of non-self and liberation. These concepts gave him a sense of direction. He began studying Buddhist scriptures deeply. He even considered becoming a monk. But his father advised him that true practice was not in temples. It was in the human world. These words changed Liang Shuming's mind. In 1917, Cai Yuanpei, president of Peking University, heard of a young man well-versed in Indian philosophy. He wanted to invite him to teach. Liang Shuming was only 24 years old. He had not even finished middle school, let alone earned a university degree. But Cai Yuanpei did not care about credentials. He valued genuine learning. And so, Liang Shuming entered Peking University. He became one of the youngest professors of his time. During his years teaching at Peking University, Liang Shuming contemplated a major question. Where should Chinese culture go? Chinese intellectuals at the time were divided into camps. Some advocated complete westernization. They believed Chinese traditions were worthless and must be abandoned entirely. Others advocated preserving tradition. They viewed Western ideas as heresy and rejected them. Liang Shuming thought both views were too extreme. He wrote a book called Eastern and Western Cultures and Their Philosophies. When published, it caused a sensation in academic circles. In this book, Liang Shuming proposed 3 cultural orientations in the world. Western culture seeks forward, pursuing conquest of nature and transformation of the world. Chinese culture seeks the middle path, pursuing harmony between humanity and nature. Indian culture seeks backward, pursuing transcendence of reality and return to the inner self. He believed each of these 3 cultures had its own value. None was inherently superior to another. Western culture succeeded greatly in material development. But it also brought many problems. People became too utilitarian, too anxious. They lost inner peace. Chinese culture emphasized the golden mean and human relationships. This remained valuable in modern society. Indian culture pursued spiritual liberation. It helped people face life and death. Liang Shuming said the future world needed not domination by one culture. It needed fusion of the 3 cultures. This view was remarkably novel at the time. It made many people reconsider the value of traditional Chinese culture. But Liang Shuming was not merely a theorist. He was a practitioner. In 1924, he made a stunning decision. He resigned from his professorship at Peking University. He went to the Shandong countryside to engage in rural reconstruction. Many people thought he had gone mad. Why abandon a good professorship to work in the countryside? But Liang Shuming had his convictions. He believed China's problems lay not in big cities. They lay in the vast countryside. 80% of China's population were farmers. If the countryside did not change, China could never truly become strong. He came to Zuping County in Shandong. He began his rural reconstruction experiment. He did not simply establish schools or teach farmers how to plant crops. He aimed to transform the entire rural society. He established rural self-governance organizations. He founded farmer cooperatives. He opened rural schools. He promoted cultural education. Liang Shuming believed the core of rural reconstruction was not technology. It was not capital. It was transformation of the human heart. He wanted farmers to understand self-governance, cooperation, and rationality. Only then could the countryside truly change. He stayed in Zuping for 7 years. During these 7 years, he lived in the countryside. He lived and worked alongside the farmers. He wore simple cloth clothing and straw sandals. He had no professorial airs whatsoever. The farmers respected him greatly. They called him Mr. Liang. Liang Shuming's rural reconstruction movement caused a major stir at the time. Many places came to learn from his model. But in 1937, Japan launched full-scale invasion of China. Zuping fell. Liang Shuming's rural reconstruction experiment was forced to halt. During the War of Resistance, Liang Shuming did another great thing. He participated in founding the China Democratic League. He traveled everywhere, calling for unity against Japan. He called for democratic constitutionalism. He met with Chiang Kai-shek and with Mao Zedong. He belonged to no political party. He spoke only for the nation and the people. Once, Liang Shuming talked with Mao Zedong. Mao asked him why he did not join the Communist Party. Liang Shuming's answer was wonderful. He said he was too slow-witted. He only knew how to think independently. He was not suited to joining a political party. These words embodied his lifelong principle of independent thinking and refusing to follow the crowd. After 1949, Liang Shuming remained on the mainland. He could have gone to Taiwan or Hong Kong. But he chose to stay. He believed the new China could realize his ideals. Reality quickly disappointed him. In 1953, at a political consultative conference, Liang Shuming raised a sharp question. He said current policies emphasized industry while neglecting farmers. Workers' lives were improving, but farmers remained poor. This was wrong. These words angered the leadership at the time. Mao Zedong criticized him at the meeting, calling him a reactionary intellectual. Liang Shuming argued back on the spot. He said he was not a reactionary intellectual. He was simply speaking the truth. This rebuttal cost him dearly. From then on, he was labeled a rightist. He was criticized and struggled against. In that era, many intellectuals chose silence or insincere self-criticism. But Liang Shuming never bowed his head. Someone asked if he regretted it. He said he did not regret it. He had said what needed saying. He had done what needed doing. This was Liang Shuming's integrity. This was the spirit of Confucianism. During the Cultural Revolution, Liang Shuming suffered immensely. Red Guards raided his home and burned his precious books. At struggle sessions, they forced him to kneel and subjected him to humiliation. but he always maintained his dignity. Once, Red Guards forced him to admit his mistakes. He raised his head and said, "You can take away an army's commander, but you cannot take away a common man's will." This quote came from the Analects of Confucius. In an era that criticized Confucius, he dared to quote this line. It took tremendous courage. In 1978, when reform and opening began, Liang Shuming was finally rehabilitated. He was 85 years old then, but his spirit remained strong. He began writing again. He continued contemplating questions of Chinese culture. In his later years, he wrote a book called The Human Heart and Human Life. This book summarized his lifelong reflections. He said the meaning of life lay not in pursuing material things. It lay in pursuing spiritual fulfillment. Not in conquering nature, but in knowing oneself. Not in transforming the world, but in transforming the human heart. These words formed a perfect echo with his youthful confusion. In 1988, Liang Shuming died in Beijing. He was 95 years old. His life spanned 3 eras, the late Qing dynasty, the Republic, and the New China. He experienced countless storms, but always held to his beliefs. Liang Shuming's thought remains significant today. His theory of cultural fusion is even more precious in this era of globalization. His emphasis on rural reconstruction coincides with current rural revitalization efforts. His advocacy for transformation of the human heart is a refreshing remedy in this restless society. Some say Liang Shuming was an idealist. Many of his ideas were impractical. But precisely because of such idealists, society maintains its forward momentum. They are like lighthouses, pointing the way in darkness. Throughout his life, Liang Shuming asked where China's path lay. His answer was to return to tradition, return to the countryside, return to the human heart. This answer may not be perfect, but it was full of wisdom. In his view, the root of Chinese culture lay in valuing human relationships, harmony, and inner cultivation. These things would not become outdated with changing times. Instead, they would grow more important. Western culture brought technology, democracy, and material prosperity. These were all good things. But if these were all there was, people would become empty. Society would become cold. Therefore, Eastern wisdom was needed for balance. The benevolence of Confucianism, the compassion of Buddhism, the naturalness of Taoism. Liang Shuming said true modernization was not turning China into the West. It was absorbing Western strengths while maintaining Chinese cultural characteristics. It was creating a new form of civilization. This civilization would have both rationality and human warmth, both efficiency and emotional depth. It could develop the economy while settling the human heart. This ideal seemed distant at the time, but today it is gradually being realized. China's rise is proving that China can have its own path to modernization. It need not completely copy Western models. It can forge a path with Chinese characteristics. If Liang Shuming could see today, he would surely feel gratified. Looking back on Liang Shuming's life, what moves us most is his sincerity. He never spoke false words. He never acted against his conscience. Even in the most difficult times, he did not abandon his principles. He had a famous saying, "I wish to dedicate my whole life to the Chinese nation and society, and I wish to become a person whom society can trust forever." He achieved this. He spent his life fulfilling this promise. We today live in a better era. We have more freedom and more opportunities. But do we still remember predecessors like Liang Shuming? Do we remember what they sacrificed for this nation? Their contemplation, their persistence, their sacrifices, all deserve our remembrance. Liang Shuming taught us that we must have integrity. We must have the ability to think independently. We cannot simply echo others. We cannot drift with the tide. We must dare to speak truth. We must dare to uphold truth. Even if the whole world opposes you, if you are right, you must persist. He also taught us that reading cannot be mere rote learning. We must read for wisdom. We must read for life's truths. We must apply what we learn. We must unite knowledge and action. Theory and practice must combine. Otherwise it is all empty talk. Most importantly, he taught us to care about society. To care about ordinary people's lives. We cannot think only of ourselves. We must have concern for the world. We must have social responsibility. This is what an intellectual should be. Liang Shuming was the last great Confucian scholar of China. He was also one of the most principled intellectuals of the 20th century. His life was living history. It was also a book that can never be finished. I hope today's sharing helps you understand this master better. I hope you can draw some inspiration from his life. In this rapidly changing era, we need Liang Shuming's spirit even more. We need independent thinking. We need cultural confidence. We need humanistic care. We need idealism. Perhaps this is the meaning of our tribute to the masters. It is not just remembering the past. It is walking the future path well. See you next time.